Imagine searching for a town on a map only to find an empty space. No roads leading to it, no road signs pointing the way, and no mention of it on any modern GPS. It is as if the place never existed at all. But deep in the harsh red outback of Western Australia, a town does exist, or at least the skeleton of one. Welcome to Wittenoom, a place so dangerous that the government literally erased it from the map to stop people from going there. This is not a story of a town destroyed by a sudden earthquake or a massive flood. This is the story of a town that slowly poisoned its own people. To understand how a thriving community became a deadly ghost town, we have to go back to the 1930s. Deep in the gorge age of the Australian outback, miners discovered something incredibly valuable: blue asbestos. Back then, asbestos was called the miracle mineral. It was fireproof, strong, and incredibly cheap to mine. Companies used it in almost everything from building materials to car brakes. Soon, a massive mining operation started, and the town of Wittenoom was born right next to the mines. Families moved in looking for good jobs and a fresh start. By the 1950s, it was the biggest town in the region, filled with schools, cafes, movie theaters, and laughing children. But there was a dark, silent killer hiding in the air. The mining process created massive clouds of blue asbestos dust. This dust was everywhere. It covered the streets, settled on the roofs of houses, and coated the workers' clothing. The mining company even gave the leftover rock and dust, called tailings, to the townspeople to use in their gardens, driveways, and school playgrounds. Children used to play in the giant piles of soft, blue dust, throwing it in the air and wrestling in it like snow. Nobody knew that every breath they took was pulling tiny sharp fibers deep into their lungs. As the year passed, the terrible truth finally came out. People in Wittenoom started getting very sick. The asbestos fibers they breathed in were causing fatal lung diseases, including a rare and aggressive cancer called mesothelioma. But the mining company ignored the health warnings for a long time to keep the profits rolling in. It was not until 1966, when the mine was no longer making enough money, that it finally shut down, but the damage was already done. Thousands of men, women, and children who lived and worked in Wittenoom would eventually lose their lives to the deadly dust. It became Australia's greatest industrial disaster. With the mine closed, the town slowly started to die. People moved away, leaving their homes behind, but the danger did not leave with them. Millions of tons of deadly asbestos tailings still covered the ground, blowing freely in the wind. The government realized that cleaning up the town was impossible. The area was simply too big and the cleanup was too expensive. So they made a drastic decision. They would wipe Wittenoom off the map. They took down all the road signs, disconnected the power and water grids, and brought back people's homes just to demolish them. They put up huge red warning signs around the area, telling tourists and explorers to stay away because the air itself could kill them. Despite the extreme danger and the total lack of basic services, a few stubborn residents refused to leave their homes. For decades, a tiny handful of people lived completely off the grid, in the middle of a toxic wasteland, ignoring the government's warnings. However, by 2022, the government finally forced the very last resident to pack up and leave, officially closing the final chapter of the town's history. Today, Wittenoom sits completely abandoned under the burning Australian sun. It remains one of the most contaminated places on earth, a haunting reminder of what happens when profit is put before human life.